I've always thought that was like the funniest quirk about Rosemary's character. Like, oh, here we go. That's just a trust that builds up over so many years. I was like, Ben, I think that's the most fun I've ever had on this show. Holy cow, who knew that Opal had that in her? They will be grabbing their tissues, is what I think.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Heart in Motion podcast. I'm thrilled to be talking with Pascale Hutton today. Hi, Pascale. How are you doing?
I'm so well. Thank you for having me, Stephanie.
It's so good to see you again. I know we got to chat briefly in Kansas City, and that was a real treat. But I'm excited to talk to you about this season of When Calls the Heart. So thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. I'm excited to talk about this season. There's lots to gab about.
We are just over halfway through. And so it's crazy to think about that. But then it's exciting to think we've still got half the season to go. So
Half the season to go and a whole nother season to look forward to because we've
I
only announced
know. How exciting is that to know already that we've got season 14? So, all right. So, a question that I've got for you is you guys, we have a new showrunner this year. We have several new writers. I'm curious, when you get a new showrunner, when you get new writers, what are some of those big things that you share with them when they say, tell us about Rosemary Coulter?
Well, Kavan and I actually had flew down to LA and had a meeting with them, the whole writers group, because we were like, let's just talk about this together. Let's talk about our characters and I just both of us had a feeling that it would make so much more sense if we were actually in the same room and you can pick up on people's energy. And so we all got together and we were sitting around this like big round dining room table and we were kind of just talking about they already had some ideas of things that they wanted to do for the season. And
Yeah.
Kevin and I just talked a lot about more like the nuance of like things that we've loved about our relationship over the years. And one of the key things that we talked about was that while Rosemary and Lee, they're kind of known for their like zany antics and their humor, and we love that, obviously, that feels like that's the backbone. We have loved when it's been juxtaposed with the more heartfelt, vulnerable moments. And we
Yeah.
feel like you kind of earn those when you have a very like kind of comedic couple or characters. It just makes those moments that much more poignant because they're rare and they feel really raw and vulnerable. So we talked about that dynamic, which is something that's been at play for many, many seasons, but that was something we didn't want to lose.
For sure.
And then, this is just such a funny thing, but this is not a big thing, but it was a little thing that I was like, I just don't want to lose this. So starting back in around, I think season 4, our showrunner at the time was a man named Alfonso, who you probably remember.
Oh, yeah. I've had him on the podcast.
I'm sure. And so Alfonso started writing this thing of Rosemary, I'm going to say it and you're going to know it instantly. Rosemary will say, it's as I always say, and then it'll be something like we've never heard her say before. And it's maybe even something that doesn't totally make a lot of sense. And I've always thought that was like the funniest quirk about Rosemary's character. So even I would sometimes come up with them over the years and I would just like add them in or I'd run them by the writer, whoever was like writing each episode. And I'd say like, I really love this. Like, what do you think if Rosemary says this? And they were always game. And so when Joy and her team came on board, that was one of the things I said to them. I said, let's keep hold of this. And I don't know, you'll start clocking it now that I've mentioned it and you've heard me talk about it. They put it in quite a few times actually throughout the season. And so that was one of the things that I was like, let's hold on to that. It's such a funny quirk. It's the quirks that you worry about losing more than the bigger thematic things, because I think those are more obvious that a writer can sense and feel, but it's those like quirky little things that might have slipped through the cracks that I just didn't want to lose.
That's so funny that you share that story because I had visited with Max Rosenblum and he actually brought that up. That was one of those, and we hear it all the time. We recognize it when, it's like I always say, and he mentioned that
Oh, that's so
conversation
funny.
actually did happen. And I actually have a question for that coming up here in a minute.
Okay.
But no, that helps explain that a little bit more. And how awesome is that you guys were able to fly down there and just have that face-to-face conversation and just talk about, I mean, Rosemary better than anybody does
I
to
mean,
have that
and
opportunity.
that's the thing is like you kind of end up being thrown into this very intimate marriage together of like writer and actor forging this character together. And yet I've been with this character for 12 years and you've been with this character for like a few minutes.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't have their skill set. I don't have the skill set of like major character story arcs and weaving it all together and that big picture stuff. I only know my character. And so, it, you really have to build this trust where I trust them that they are going to handle her story with care, which they have beautifully. And then they're trusting that I'm going to take what they write and infuse it with all that history that I've developed over all these years.
Yeah. I feel like we got one of those moments. And I know, I'm guessing that, you shared out several times that you have a favorite moment this season or one of your favorites and a favorite over multiple seasons. And
Yeah.
I'm guessing it was the jail conversation between
Yes.
Rosemary and Lee. And at the time, you couldn't talk about it. So I want to hear more about that. But, you and Kevin having worked so long together and having so many amazing moments, what's different about a moment like that where you just know it's just a really good moment and it's going to translate to the fans that are watching it?
Well, to be totally frank, that scene, when I read it on the page, it didn't really pop. It was a lovely scene. It was a quiet little scene, but it didn't really pop in the way that sometimes I read a Rosemary and Lee scene and I'm like, oh, ho, 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 here we go. It's gonna fly. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, that's a nice scene. That'll be good. And then we sit into it, figuratively speaking, and there's something that just flows and there's just a flow to it. And that's what happened with that scene is it just flowed really effortlessly. And there was just this ease where it kind of, in a very understated, kind of, in my opinion, nuanced way, kind of flowed between like a little bit of humor, a little bit of, taking each other to task,
Yeah.
also a little bit of heart and connection. And that flow between all of those things, I said to Kevin, as soon as we finished that scene, we walked off set and I was like, I just don't think we could have done that if 10 years ago when we were first a married couple on this show. That flow and that ease of just one person taking the lead and then the other person taking the lead and just knowing that the other person's going to follow you where you go and then you're going to follow them. That's just a trust that builds up over so many years. And it just felt very special when we were doing it. And it felt like the accumulation of a lot of years of collaboration and connection between not just Rosemary and Lee, but Kevin and Pascale.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was evident for us. And it's just always so interesting because, you play Rosemary from, one extreme to the other, and it all makes sense to us because that's who we know Rosemary to be. So it's always fun for us to see, like, when you sit in those moments like that, and it does feel so it's what it's supposed to be in this moment. And Rosemary not coming in and like going at him, but just even, the kind of like the comment back at him, like,
Yes,
you
exactly.
know, was perfect and so
Yeah.
good. So I wanted to ask because I'm assuming that was the moment. And I was
It
like,
was.
well,
It
now
was.
she's got an opportunity to talk about it. So Lee decides that he's going to go the route of a construction company. And it was cute that he said our construction company, right? And it's a great opportunity for him to find his place after the fire and all of that. But I'm wondering, it also creates this level of stress that kind of rises to the surface that we know is kind of there, but really rises to the surface. and having Rosemary there to support him through that. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I'm just curious, knowing we've got the second half of the season, has he worked through that and has Rosemary given him a pretty good regiment to handle that stress going forward?
Yeah, well, obviously Rosemary's giving him a regiment. But yeah, I think that they end up finding their way, and I think he starts seeing the value in taking a time out and spending time with not just Rosemary and Goldie, but also Gwen, and that like
Yeah.
those moments together where they're just like woodworking in the backyard, that's very, and fishing together, that's very therapeutic for him. And that is a way of him taking a pause. And then even him taking charge and finding all those saplings, like that was a way of him being involved. And I mean, it really was a job, and
Yeah.
yet it didn't feel like it had the stress, because I think it felt more community oriented.
Yeah.
And so it was like good for his soul. And so I think that's kind of where his journey is at, and Rosemary's journey is kind of to try and help him find that and navigate that together.
Let's talk a little bit more about Alex because I know you got mic'd in Kansas City for
I
bringing
know.
for bringing up her name. But my goodness, what an amazing addition to the season. And I will tell you that I'm campaigning. I don't even know how the season ends, but I'm campaigning on every podcast that we find a way to bring her back in 14.
I know.
But
Kevin and
talk
I
about that
too.
experience and having her join you guys this year and even maybe what's to come.
Well, so on, I want to say her like first or second day, we were all sitting in the green room together, like waiting in between some scene. I can't even remember what scene it was. And Cavan, in typical Cavan fashion,
Yeah.
says to her, "Oh, so we ask every new actor who comes onto the show, they have to sing a song for us while we're waiting around." And she goes, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I was like rolling my eyes, like, oh my God, this poor girl. And she goes, "No, you're joking." And he goes, "No, I'm not. No, you want to be on the show? You gotta sing. Like that's what it is." And she goes, "Okay." And she gets up in front of all of us. Like there were so many of us in the room, like of all ages too. And she just like launches into this song. It was so beautiful. She's got such a beautiful voice, but that story, that incident speaks more to her like willingness and
Mhm.
confidence and
Mhm.
just dive right in kind of personality. She's so much fun to have around, and she's just like right in there on screen, but also off screen. She's just a wonderful, wonderful person. And yeah, she's just so open and available. We just loved her, loved working with her, loved having her on the show. And yeah, she's kind of a dream to work with, quite honestly.
One of my favorite moments of the season is when Lee and Gwen are out back doing the woodworking and Rosemary kind of peeks through the window and is watching it. It was just so amazing to see that Rosemary, at first is trying to go at it like Rosemary does and then realizes this is what they need right now and I need to just can you talk a little bit about Rosemary realizing this is what the two of them need in that moment?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what it was. But what I think is really interesting is and is going to be exciting and beautiful for people to see is that that's not where that story ends. That while Rosemary does kind of step back and give Gwen some space and give Lee and Gwen time to connect, because it seems like it's more of a easy and natural fit, they end up finding their way. Gwen and Rosemary end up sort of finding a space where, although they're both very strong personalities, they kind of come to appreciate
Mhm.
the other person and what the other person has to offer. And so it's just honestly from start to finish, it's a really great story, and I think people are going to they will be grabbing their tissues, is what I think, when we get to like the end of the season, because it's really beautiful and emotional. Yeah.
Gwen brings up, she sees the picture that is up on the wall and asks Rosemary if it still is something that has stayed with her and if she misses it. We also know what's happened in the fire and that the playhouse is gone. And so I'm curious because, we've got episode 8 coming up. What can you tell us about Rosemary maybe having an opportunity to kind of pull some of that back out of her because we know that she's needing this thing to grab a hold of?
Yeah, I think she has, to her credit, really, when everything kind of went up in smoke,
Yeah,
literally, she put her own needs and her own feelings about that situation
totally.
completely aside. And she was like, I'm going to just focus, put one foot in front of the other, do the jobs that need to be done, and support the people who really need to be supported. And even like steer Lee back on track. And this is what needs to happen right now. And so that's what I'll do. And she did that beautifully. But what I think is so neat is that then you see this moment of like in episode 8, you see this spark ignite. And then what's so, because she gets the idea, she's going to direct a silent film. And then what's so exciting, I think, is that moment she brings it into Lee, and Lee just is like smiling at her, so happy. And he's like, there she is.
Mhm.
She's back.
Yeah.
And it's just so satisfying. And I just felt like you really feel like that love between the two of them. They both really are always rooting for one another, and wanting each other to live their most fulfilled and satisfied lives.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, and in true Rosemary fashion, she just takes the bull by the horns, and she's run that whole show. She's just going to whip the entire town into shape, and no one is going to say no to her. It's happening exactly how she envisions it.
And she even has, Lee right there beside her. He doesn't just say, yeah, go for it. But I mean, she's bringing them all in, right?
Yes, exactly. She's like, okay, you're going to co-produce this with me, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. I don't really want to say what everybody's jobs end up being because it's such a fun story. And I think the fans are going to just be so delighted to see everybody in their new roles,
Hmm.
because it's new looks and new things for us to see the characters. I mean, we just don't, after 13 seasons, it's really hard to find new ground
Hmm.
for these
Hmm.
characters. And so to create this, and you really get to see people in a whole new light, I think is just so fun.
There's a teen, and you tell me if you need tell me if I need to be mic'd. Uh,
I'm not the person to ask, obviously.
there's a teen that's involved that I think people are going to be so excited to see. And I want to, hopefully, you'll be able to kind of somehow let us know about that after that episode airs. But it was
Well,
so
I think
fun
we
to
can
see.
talk about it in vague terms. I will say Opal is involved. Opal,
Yay!
sweet Opal, who we have known and loved as the sweetest, kind of meekest little girl, and we've known her since she was just a bitty thing, in that with that tiny little voice of hers that she had. And then we now see her, and she really comes into her own. That's what we'll say. She really comes into her own in this episode, and we were like, holy cow, who knew that Opal had that in her?
I can confirm it is like we've never seen Opal before, and it was amazing. It was so fun to watch. I didn't know she had it in her. There was, and I cannot remember where, I don't know who talked about it, but there was a moment at one of whether it was HFR or Kansas City where somebody teased about a scene where you and Hrothgar and Hickam
It's me.
are.
Yeah.
Is this that episode?
Yes.
I
Yes.
saw it
Did
and I
you
was
see
like,
the moment?
yes. Well,
I
then
just watched the episode last night, and I was dying laughing, watching us in the background. It fills me with so much joy. And I was like, are we being distracting? And I'm like, we're really dancing on the edge right there. But I think it was like subdued enough that it barely skated by. But oh my gosh, so funny, so funny. That's the scene that I like came off, we finished it, and then I said to Ben, I was like, Ben, I think that's the most fun I've ever had on this show. And he goes, Pascal, we're not even really in the scene. And I go, I don't care. I had so much fun.
Well, if it helps, it was not too distracting because I didn't catch it the first time. But when I watched it the second time, I saw Hrothgar first of all. But it made sense. It's not distracting. It's like everybody is practicing what
Yeah.
they're supposed to be doing. It totally fits. But I watched it and I went, that has to be what they were talking about. And so I rewound it and watched it again. So I'm excited for everybody else to be looking for that, everybody, right? That's so good. Okay, you have episode 6. We can't get through a season without Rosemary and Elizabeth having one of their late night chats. And this falls after, Rosemary has kind of given Lee the regiment and we're kind of working through the stress. It's at the same time after the polygraph incident. And Elizabeth is a little bit unsure about, Nathan's response. And of course, we had this great little moment between Rosemary and Elizabeth, which we always are waiting to have. But I'm curious, would you say that this particular moment was designed just to be a little check-in moment for the two of them, or is that setting up for something that we haven't either fully seen physically or emotionally kind of like come to light yet?
I think it was more of a check-in between the two women. That I 100%. It's just more of like a check-in between the
Yeah.
two. We hadn't really had a scene like that this season, and I think we always like to have at least one of those moments where these two women who are, best friends, it's kind of like sisters. They're just there for each other through thick and thin, and even in the middle of the night, like they'll just and it's just there's that kind of intimacy and closeness. We like to see them, I mean, quite frankly, we like to see them in their pajamas,
Yeah.
like more natural, more like natural, deconstructed, kind of like not as put together, and just connecting the two of them. And I think that that's what was at the heart of that scene.
Liam, I visited with him the other day, who wrote that episode, and he shared that the lemon curd reaction was not something that was necessarily originally in the script. Is that true? Or do you remember?
Yeah, well, we were kind of like puzzling over this lemon curd situation. Like the lemon curd was so odd. It was just like lemon curd, and then we're always talking about this lemon curd. And anyways, and so we thought it would be funny. I mean, Elizabeth has a history of not honestly not being a great cook. And
Yeah, it's
so
expected.
so we were trying to figure out like kind of like a little button on the scene because she's like, but you like it, right? And that it would be funny. We thought if Rosemary was like, well, like, and doesn't really say anything. And what were we going to do with that? Because it was written like Rosemary doesn't say anything. So we were like, what do we do with that? So then we turned it into this funny thing. And yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out.
It was great. It was fantastic. Will we get another Elizabeth and Rosemary moment coming up? Serious, I should say, because we always love the antics, but
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, it's once we're done filming the season, it's really hard to remember
yeah.
the order of things.
Yeah.
And so I actually don't remember if there's one coming up or not. I hope so. I like them too. I like watching them too. I don't remember if we have one coming up or not.
Okay, so you had mentioned earlier on that one of Rosemary's things that she's kind of taken on since season 4 is it's like I always say. All right.
Yes,
So
yes.
Rosemary often says, it's like I always say. If Rosemary were to finish that sentence about the rest of the season in general, what would she say?
Oh gosh, Stephanie, put me on the spot. I feel like this is like something the writer should
There's
tackle.
like 50,000 things, right? You could just pick one and you're going to get it right.
Well, this one, okay, let me think. It's like I always say, I'm not gonna do a good job at this. I know I'm not. I'm
You want me to keep going?
keep going. I'll think about it. I'll think
I
about
can
it,
talk
and then I'll
about
come back to you.
clipboards if you want to talk about clipboards.
Great. Let's talk about clipboards. The clipboards, the fantastic clipboards.
Do you have a moment coming up later in this season that you're especially excited for Hearties to see?
Oh, very much, very much. I'm really like the kind of overriding arc for Rosemary and Lee together is this storyline with Gwen. And the way that storyline uh, kind of comes to, I don't want to say a conclusion because we all want her to come
Yeah,
back, but
yeah.
but the way it kind of it ties together at the end is so poignant and beautiful, and you see real growth for both Gwen and Rosemary, and uh yeah, it's just a really beautiful there's some multiple beautiful scenes between Gwen and Rosemary, and I'm really excited for people to see that because I think it's well earned because we've seen this kind of struggle and kind of push pull between the two of them throughout the season, and so to see them kind of work through that, it's very poignant.
Love that. I am so excited to see where that is going. It's been such a fantastic story to watch this season. So we've got episode 8 coming up. You've told us a little bit about some directing that Rosemary is going to do. Is there anything else you can tease about episode 8 that's coming up?
Well, in episode 8, what is coming up? Well, I what I will say is it's a real feast for the eyes because there are so many wonderful new costumes
Mhm.
at play, and I think that's always so fun for the audience to watch, but it's so much fun for us to kind of inhabit. And I can speak for myself. Uh, my process with Barbara is always very collaborative. And so she had got the script for number 8 way in advance. And she said to me, there's this story that where Rosemary's going to direct a silent film. And what do you think? Like, what do you think her directing outfit would be like? Do you have any opinions? And I said, oh, I have some opinions. I said, give me a moment. And so I was like pulling all these images, and I sent them all to her, and I said, definitely I'm seeing a beret. Like she should be wearing a beret. And Barbara was like, great. I love it. So she brought me like, I think 4 or 5 different berets to try on. And so we found like this one. And then I said, and I just think she needs something around her neck. Like, I don't know if it's a scarf or what it is, but there needs to be something here. And I think a vest. And Barbara said, great. Check, check, check. And then she said, what do we think about pants? Pants are being discussed. If Rosemary would wear pants. And I go, Rosemary wouldn't wear pants. And she goes, that's what I said. And I said, okay, great. I'm glad we're on the same page. So she had extra material because the skirt is a skirt I've worn many times.
Yeah.
And so she had extra material, and she's like, I'm going to build a matching vest to go with this. And it'll look like kind of almost like a suit.
Yeah.
And then the blouse is a blouse that's been in my closet for so long, but then she added that quite prominent black bow. And then once we added the black bow, the blouse had these like black lace kind of shoulder, like cuffs.
Yeah.
And we were going to take them off. But once we put the black bow on, she was then like, I think we should leave them on. And I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we went with a black beret and then the black shoes. I was like, oh, it's all like, of course, Rosemary would have a perfect outfit that's like so,
Ready to go in the
yeah,
closet, ready to go, right?
meticulously coordinated. And then the like added bonus to it all, which I didn't know, it wasn't in the script that Rosemary had a bullhorn. But then I showed up on set that day and they had this bullhorn that was like painted the exact colors of her outfit. It was so perfect. And they'd put on director on it. I mean, it was just so perfect. The whole thing, so good.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for everybody to see episode 8. I'm also excited for next month because I want to give you an opportunity to mention about Nelly Knows Mysteries coming back because we've been waiting and waiting. And I would love to have you and Kavan back on to talk about it. But can you talk real quickly about what's coming up next month?
Yes, it's the second installment of our Nelly Knows Mystery series. So yeah, we made that movie like a year ago. We had so much fun. We loved it. The first movie it's always going to be like kind of the establishing movie where we're establishing the characters, we're establishing the dynamic, we're establishing the town, all those things. And then this one, we kind of can like kind of take what was established and like kind of run. And we did that, but we also introduced all these wonderful supporting characters and amazing actors that are playing those roles. And so it's really a really stellar cast and world that you kind of enter in. And it's very different. It's very different. It's a totally different mystery. It's a totally different world kind of than the first one. And I think people are going to really love it. We loved it. Loved it. Great script, great
Yeah.
actors.
Everybody's got a month to go watch the first one so they're ready for the second one, right?
Exactly.
And is it on Hallmark instead of Hallmark
Yes.
Mystery?
So that was another surprise to us. We didn't know that that's what was going to happen. But yes, it's premiering on the regular Hallmark channel.
All right. Well, Pascale, it has been a treat to get to talk to you. I'm so glad we got to connect. I'm excited for everybody to see episode 8 and the rest of the season. And I'm also excited to see what's ahead for Lee and Rosemary and Gwen and even little Goldie, which we didn't get to talk about her, but my goodness, we've loved seeing her more this season. So
You know what? There's this moment. Okay, we're going to just sidetrack for a second.
let's do it.
There's this moment in when they have the surprise party for I'm blanking on what his character name is for Jacob. What's Jacob's character
Oh,
name?
for Oliver.
For Oliver.
Yeah.
So in the surprise party, and when I watched that episode, I was dying laughing, and I hope people go back and watch it because it's
Yes.
so funny. I'm holding Goldie, Ellie, and Ellie, like doing a scene with Ellie is the most, she's not acting, she's just like living her best life. And so I'm holding her, and she's often like whispering things in my ear and like asking me questions or things like that. And so I'm like kind of trying to like under my breath answer her questions like this. But in that thing, she's like just enamored with my earring, and she's just like it's so funny that that's like the coverage that they went with because she loves jewels, and of course Rosemary's always
Yeah.
bedazzled, and so
Yeah.
she's just playing with my earring. It's the cutest thing, and I'm surprised nobody like picked up on it, but there she is just like playing with my earrings. It's so sweet. She's just like transfixed on these
Yes.
jewels.
Here's everybody's challenge. Go back and watch episode 4 and then get a reel, get a picture out there of
That's right.
Ellie grabbing the earrings. So that's so cute. Well, hopefully, we're going to continue. We got season 14, that maybe we'll get to, I mean, we've got to see her in several episodes this season. And I don't
Mhm.
know, is she about ready to give us some dialogue? Do you think that's going to happen in
I
season
don't
14?
know. It's so funny. She came over the other day, like just last week, and she's over, and her and I are having a little play date,
Yeah.
and she's just like chat, 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 chat. And then I think there's something about like when she's on set and where the cameras are rolling, and it's like everybody's quiet all of a sudden, and everybody's looking, that
Yeah.
she's suddenly like, oh, maybe I should be quiet too.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
actually a very chatty little girl, and
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh, like next year she'll be 4. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, 4, maybe she'll be like more into like wanting to talk. But who knows? You just never know. And that's kind of the delight of working with young kids.
Absolutely.
It's so spontaneous.
Always making the job fun. So.
Yeah,
Well, Pascale, thank you so much for talking. And I mean, hopefully, maybe next month we can get together again and talk
that would
about.
be great. That would
That
be
would be
great.
awesome.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thanks, Pascale. All right. Bye bye.